Welcome back to Grade 7 Math. This is lesson number 3.4, Add and Subtract Fractions Using a Common Denominator. So with this lesson, we're really moving away from using diagrams and pattern blocks and working with common denominators, as I'm sure you have done in previous grades. Okay, so again, we are going to add and subtract fractions without using diagrams. What we learned in our last lesson slash video, which was about finding the lowest common denominator, that lesson is going to be very useful to us today. Adding and subtracting fractions that have the same denominator is easy. All we have to do is add slash subtract the numerators. The denominator stays the same. So I'll do one example for you, and then I'm going to leave the remaining three for you to try at home. So 3/11 plus 5/11, we see right away that we have the same denominator of 11. I'm adding. All I have to add is 3 plus 5 to give me 8. So put the video on pause so you can try these three examples at home. All right, and we will go over those three in our next class. But moving on. But what if the fractions do not have the same denominator? Well, we first need to find a common denominator and write equivalent fractions with this common denominator. Then we can add or subtract. So looking at these two examples, we have 1/2 plus 1/3. And I'm thinking that the lowest common denominator for 2 and 3 is 6. And working with that, that means that I'm also going to have to change the numerators as I'm making equivalent fractions with a denominator of 6. So 1/2 becomes 3/6. 1/3 becomes 2/6. And now this is very simple. 3 plus 2 is 5. So my final answer is 5/6. Put the video on pause. See if you can tackle this question on your own. And when you hit the play button, I'll reveal the solution. Okay, so I kind of like problems like these where we can see that the lowest common denominator is right in front of us at 6. Okay, and of course 3 can be multiplied by 2 to make 6. Now because I've already got the lowest common denominator here, 5/6 can stay the same, but 2/3 is going to need to change into 4/6. Again, very simple problem. 5 take away 4 is 1, so I am left with 1/6. All right, I want you guys to put the video on pause so that you can try these 4 problems at home, and then we'll go over them in our next class. All right. Hopefully you wrote down your answers to these problems. If not, I'll give you one more opportunity to put the video on pause so that you can record your work and your answers on paper, because we will take this up in our next class. Okay, moving on. Okay, 4 more examples. I want you to work on these on paper. And you are going to put the video on pause now to work on these. All right. Okay, one thing I want to point out, and it's pretty simple, but it's something very helpful. Okay, when you see repeated addition of the same fraction, you can rewrite that as multiplication. So looking at the sample right here, we've got 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. Okay, now I know you could probably say, well, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, 3 over 2. Okay, but here, a lot of people find it much easier to say, well, I've got 3 of the same fraction, so it's 3 times 1 over 2. That's 3 over 2. Put the video on pause when I finish speaking and try rewriting this fraction addition as multiplication. All right, so let's take a look. I've got 4 of the same fraction, so it's going to be 4 times 4 over 9. Okay, and I think 4 times 4 is 16 over 9. And for those of you who may have forgotten, you can certainly end up with fractions which have a larger numerator than a denominator. These are, of course, improper fractions, which we'll be doing a fair amount of work with as we proceed with this unit. All right, so in conclusion, like so many other things in math, when it comes to adding and subtracting fractions, it's all about practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. The more practice you do, the more confident you'll get with your ability to add and subtract fractions with different denominators. So I've chosen a whole bunch of questions for us to work on in class. But until we meet again, this concludes today's video.